The house sat on a quiet street where nothing ever seemed to happen. Tree-lined sidewalks. Evening porch lights. Neighbors who waved but rarely stopped to talk. It was the kind of place people described as safe. The kind of home where doors stayed unlocked and no one imagined violence could exist behind the walls. And for years, no one did. On a calm evening, first responders were called to the house for what was described as a medical emergency. Inside, they found a man at the bottom of the staircase. He was already dead. Police documented the scene quickly. There were no overturned furniture pieces. No signs of forced entry. No obvious wounds beyond those consistent with a fall. The conclusion came fast. An accident. A tragic fall inside a family home. Within hours, the narrative had formed, and once a narrative forms, it's hard to undo. Investigators noted that the victim had no known enemies. No recent disputes. No history that suggested foul play. Family members were cooperative. Neighbors reported nothing unusual. The house showed no visible signs of struggle. The medical examiner ruled the death accidental. The paperwork reflected certainty. The house was released back to the family. The staircase was cleaned. Life resumed. And with that, the case slipped quietly into storage. At the time, there was no reason to doubt the explanation. Accidents happen. People fall. Homes can be dangerous in unexpected ways. But the most important detail was this. No one looked for another answer. Evidence wasn't challenged. Timelines weren't reconstructed. Assumptions weren't questioned. Because the house didn't feel like a crime scene. For nearly a decade, the case remained untouched. The family moved forward. Neighbors moved away. The street stayed quiet. The house was renovated. Floors replaced. Walls repainted. Any trace of what happened that night seemed long gone. But evidence has a way of waiting. Years later, a cold case unit began digitizing old files, not because they suspected wrongdoing, but because policy required it. Boxes were pulled from shelves. Photos scanned. Handwritten notes uploaded. It was a process meant to preserve history. Instead, it reopened it. One photograph caught an analyst's attention. It was a wide shot of the staircase. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But when contrast levels were adjusted, something appeared along the edge of the floor near the base of the stairs. A discoloration. Subtle. Irregular. And in the wrong place. Falls leave predictable patterns. This didn't match one. The darkened area suggested pressure, not impact. Movement, not collapse. The analyst flagged the image. It was the first time, in years, that anyone had questioned the original conclusion. With new legal approval, investigators revisited the home. What they found surprised everyone. Beneath newer flooring, remnants of the original surface remained. Despite years of cleaning and renovation, material beneath had absorbed more than expected. Forensic testing confirmed it. Blood. Not just traces, but enough to analyze. And the pattern didn't align with an accidental fall. It suggested a struggle that occurred before the body reached the stairs. That discovery changed everything. Investigators reopened the file and re-examined the original reports. What they found wasn't just missed evidence, but missed opportunities. A neighbor had reported hearing raised voices that night. The note was never followed up. A timeline relied on estimates, not confirmed sightings. One officer had written a comment in the margin of a report, never expanded, never explained. And then there was the evidence list. Logged among personal effects was a small object recovered near the staircase. At the time, it was deemed irrelevant. It didn't belong to the victim. It wasn't bloodstained. It didn't appear dangerous. So it was catalogued and forgotten. Until now. When the object was tested using modern forensic methods, the results were unexpected. The DNA didn't belong to the victim. It didn't belong to any family member. And it didn't match the person investigators had quietly suspected all along. As detectives rebuilt the timeline, one name surfaced repeatedly. Not as a suspect. Not as a person of interest. But as someone who had been present that night. They had access to the home. They had reason to be there. And their alibi had never been verified. Why? The files didn't say. Only that it had been accepted. Then came the final discovery. A document buried deep in the case file showed a timestamp, altered by hand. One digit changed. Just enough to remove someone from the scene. That alteration redirected the entire investigation years ago. And no one questioned it. Until now. The house still stands. The street still looks peaceful. But the case is no longer what it once seemed. Because this wasn't just about missed evidence. It was about ignored voices. Accepted assumptions. And a truth that waited quietly for years. In part 2, investigators confront the person whose name kept appearing, and uncover why this case was pushed toward silence instead of justice. Because if this wasn't an accident, someone made sure it looked like one.